Okay, time for some man time. The slaves of the world. That's a very strong statement, but it's a very real thing. And I'm going to try to show you how. I was sitting around today talking about a couple things, and the term or the saying slaves of the world came up. We were talking about how we know women love to be on welfare of every kind. The WNBA is subsidized by the NBA, yet they complain as if they're not subsidized. They complain about being paid more, and I don't blame them. They should want to be paid more, but they should also want to pay back the NBA first. But that is not how that works. And I'm going to show you how that doesn't just stop there. It stems from something else. Anytime I hear basketball players and football players and rappers and all sorts of entertainers talk about how hard it was growing up, they grew up poor, in the hood, etc., etc., etc. They don't realize that they grew up that way because of the choices and decisions of their parents. And not just both of them, primarily the ones that reared them and were responsible for them. Let me show you what I mean. If you go apply for cash assistance, it's welfare. If you go apply for food stamps assistance, it's welfare. If you go apply for Medicaid or medical care, Medicaid, Medicare, welfare, or you go apply for HUD housing or one of the section services, welfare, or you go apply for phone services, bus cards, train cards, if you go apply for financial aid, if you go apply for government grants, if you go apply for public school, VPK, etc., etc. Those are all welfare programs. You know, when you get into those welfare programs, you have to put together a financial affidavit usually. They need to know everything about you. They need to know all of your information, social, birth certificate. They need a copy of your ID, driver's license, or passport. They need to know how much money you spend, how much money you make, where you work, how you make your money, what's your bank account information. They need to know everything about you. And to know so is the only way you can get those services. Which means, essentially, you don't own your home, they do, which means they have access to your residence at any given time. They have access to all of your medical records at any given time. They have access to your dental. They have access to your home. They have access to your school records. They have access to your children. If you fuck up the wrong way, they can remove your children from you, and there's nothing you can do about it. If you fuck up the wrong way, they can remove you from your resident. They can drop you from the program and take away all your services. And you can do nothing about it. Yet most of us have known people to be on these programs forever and a day, but they don't want to give those same privileges, that same application, that same financial affidavit, that same information, the same priorities and privileges, the same respect to the children's fathers. Yet they still want the money. Hell, child support is directly connected to welfare. It's a form of welfare. Yet mothers don't want to give the fathers of their children any of that information. Make that make sense? You'd rather live on the system and become a ward of the state and make your children's wards of the state. If your children's a ward of the state, they don't go to school. They don't go to school on time. They're mistreated. They're acting up. They're not eating. They can take your children out of the home. But if your child's father does it, you want his life ruined. You don't want to ruin the system that ruins you. You want to ruin the children's father, who wants the same information, the same understanding, the same know, the same privileges, the same respect, and the same, how would I say, consideration, and authority as the state. Let me show you how this works, though. You don't know that every time you apply for any government program that you have to put in an application, which means you should also apply to your men, your fathers and your children's fathers, your husbands. You should apply yourself. You should be willing to comply yourself. You should also be willing to negotiate yourself, because you negotiate with the state for everything. When you get a job, you negotiate for everything. Ultimately, what they've taught you to do is dumb yourself down, meaning not even develop the capacity or the understanding or the will to negotiate, to think for yourself, so that you go to the state and you ask them to think and act for you. Slaves of the world. Yeah. You need a marriage license in order to love someone. Make that make sense. You need a marriage license in order to commit to someone. Make it make sense. You need a marriage license in order for the state to tell you that it's okay for you to marry someone. You need welfare in every form, shape, and fashion in order for you to be you. You need permission to be who you say you are. And that makes you a slave of the world. Now, how does that make you feel? Anywho, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Let's get the conversation started. Let's see if we can teach each other how to free ourselves from being and becoming wards of the state. And until next time, man time out.